Amusement park chains are always looking to add new coasters to their parks. These additions can vary from small family coasters to massive thrill-oriented installations. In this video, we will take a look at every park in the Six Flags chain and discuss what coaster they need the most. We will begin with Six Flags Magic Mountain. Being Six Flags' premier park, Magic Mountain does not have any major holes to fill. They have multiple different coasters that hang off the track, X2, Batman the Ride, and Ninja. Launch coasters aren't a problem here either, as the park has Superman Escape from Krypton, West Coast Racers, and Full Throttle. There are plenty of inversions in the park. Basically every major coaster flips riders upside down. In fact, this park actually has the most inversions of any roller coaster park in the world. That being said, this park could definitely use a floater airtime machine such as a B&M Hyper. They don't really have any coasters that offer airtime other than Twisted Colossus, so it would fill the gap perfectly. But even better than a Hyper is a Giga. This is the one park in the chain that I could see possibly adding one, so I had to mention it. They've been teasing something like that for a while, which adds to the possibility. We've all seen how good B&M Gigas can be, and I think if Six Flags went all in with a giant Giga coaster, it would be one of the best coasters on the West Coast. Plus, this could cover for Goliath, their knockoff B&M Hyper, which we all know is a waste of height and speed. While a Giga would be very exciting, I'd say just a B&M Hyper model of any variety, whether 300 or 200 feet tall, would be the best fit for this park. Going to the other Six Flags park in California, we have Discovery Kingdom. Contrary to its in-state counterpart, this park does not have the same depth and does not get the same love. It also has very little, if any, space to work with. The park is in need of a wooden coaster because it doesn't have a single one. However, I'm not sure they have the space for one. And I know this video is called The Coaster Every Six Flags Park Needs the Most, but it still has to be realistic. Discovery Kingdom has a great standout airtime machine with Joker and a solid launch coaster with vertical velocity, and this also doesn't sit on top of the track, along with a Vekoma SLC, Kong, even though it's rough. The park's SNS 4D free spin, Batman the Ride, does also give it a spinning coaster. Other than the major wooden coaster gap, this park doesn't have a great family coaster lineup. They do have a couple of kiddie coasters and a Zamperla spinning coaster, but I think the park could squeeze in a Vekoma family boomerang. This would give another coaster option to families. I also think that the chain will look to add more Vekomas after they just added a super boomerang to Great Adventure. Next up, we have Six Flags Mexico, one of the chain's two international parks. This park has a solid lineup with two major standout coasters, these being the amazing RMC conversion Medusa Steel Coaster and the fantastic Morgan Hyper Coaster Superman Al Ultimo Escape. These coasters both bring airtime and give the park one of the better 1-2 punches in North America. Other than Superman and Medusa, this park lacks some depth. They have a Vekoma SLC which gives the park something under the track. Six Flags Mexico also has an SNS free spin and a Gerstlauer spinning coaster and a couple of other family coasters. This leaves the park with one major hole to fill, which is a launch coaster. I think a layout-focused Vekoma launch coaster, something perhaps like Abyssus at Energylandia, would be perfect. These are relatively cheap, only about $10 to $15 million, so it could fit in their budget, and it would give the park another standout ride with some fast-paced inversions and airtime. Another one of Six Flags' best parks is Fiesta, Texas. Very similar to a park like Magic Mountain, Fiesta, Texas doesn't have any giant holes in its lineup. Iron Rattler and Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster are RMC masterpieces that both deliver amazing airtime and pacing. Superman Krypton Coaster is considered to be one of the best floorless coasters in the world. The park also has the first dive coaster with a beyond vertical drop. Poltergeist gives the park a launch coaster, and plenty more inversions. However, this park does lack floater airtime, so I think a B&M Hyper or even a mini Hyper would be a great fit. Even if it was a smaller version of the model, like Goliath at Ronde, this would still add a type of force that Fiesta, Texas lacks in. Also, this park only has one launch coaster with Poltergeist, and that is not really a standout attraction at all. I think that adding some kind of launch coaster, whether it's a Mach, or even an Intamin, which would both be expensive, or perhaps a Vekoma, which would be cheaper, would also really round out the park's lineup. I think either one of those options would really help solidify this park's lineup and bring it up to the same level as its great atmosphere and operations. Now we move on to one of the more neglected Six Flags parks, Frontier City. Frankly, I'm just begging Six Flags to give this park any coaster at all, considering it hasn't opened an adult coaster since 1994, and I really think they should just throw it a bone. Now, if they were to do so, an RMC Raptor would be the perfect choice. For a relatively cheap price and in a small footprint, you can add a brand new standout roller coaster to this park with outstanding airtime, inversions, and pacing. Six Flags has already built 3 of these, so they are familiar with the product and model, and it would just be a perfect fit for this park. It is unique, fairly marketable, and I think they would get a strong return on investment. But while I think a single rail would be the best fit for this park, I honestly just want to see any sort of addition at all to Frontier City. Now we have the original Six Flags park, Six Flags Over Texas. I think this is a park in need of a modern wooden coaster. This is a large park and their lineup goes 14 coasters deep, but the only wood coaster they currently operate is Judge Roy's Scream, which is sadly not all that great of an attraction at this point. If Over Texas could build something perhaps like Mystic Timbers, it would be fantastic. It could also complement their RMC, New Texas Giant, quite well. Plus, this would give the park a better 1-2 punch to compete with other parks its size. Now, as for Six Flags St. Louis, I know this is going to be a polarizing pick, but I think it needs to happen. Six Flags St. Louis should RMC the boss. Just imagine what RMC could do with such a massive structure and layout. It would be absolutely incredible and at least a top 20 coaster in the world. While I understand Boss is a unique wooden coaster with its layout, this park would still have American Thunder, which is a decent GCI, and Screaming Eagle, a classic PTC wooden coaster. So they'd still have 2 decent wooden coasters left. And they would give the park everything they need to completely round up their lineup. They'd have a launch with Mr. Freeze, an invert with Batman the Ride, a spinner with Pandemonium, and then a standout and airtime machine with RMC Boss. The park president has talked about trying to make it happen, and I really hope he is able to convince the higher-ups to make the investment. Now we move on to Six Flags Great America, which is a park that has one of the most well-rounded lineups in the chain, alongside Magic Mountain and Great Adventure. The park has 3 coasters which aren't directly on the track, plus an insane launch coaster with Max Force, a fan-favorite family coaster with Whizzer, and floater airtime with Raging Bull, their B&M Hyper. And it already contains a ground-up RMC with Goliath, which was actually a topper track installation containing 2 inversions, but only really has 1 airtime moment other than the first drop. So for Great America, I think RMC could come in and either do a complete 208 retrack on American Eagle, or perhaps redo the layout just a little bit like a normal iBox conversion to add some more airtime moments and make it smoother, but not really add any new inversions. I think this could be a solid compromise to keep some or all of the original American Eagle layout, but still improve it and bring some more airtime and a new coaster to Great America. Next is Six Flags Over Georgia, which was the second park to be opened by the chain. Similar to Over Texas, this park has a solid lineup with plenty of depth. However, they lack a good wooden coaster. Goliath and Twisted Cyclone provide both ejector and floater airtime, while Superman Ultimate Flight and Batman the Ride give inversions and a coaster off the track. Daredevil Dive is a unique Gerstlauer with a beyond vertical drop and more inversions. Georgia Scorcher is a small B&M stand-up that is considered to be at least a somewhat decent looping coaster. They also have a rare Schwarzkopf looping coaster that has some intense moments. Their only wooden coaster is Great American Scream Machine, and that can be a rougher ride and doesn't really offer all that many forces. I've seen people say it should be RMC'd, but I think it should stay because Twisted Cyclone already has a mix of airtime inversions, and I don't think RMC could make it way different than Twisted Cyclone. If they gave Over Georgia a solid GCI wooden coaster, or maybe even a smaller scale addition from Gravity Group, I think everyone would be happy. I have to at least throw Gravity Group into the mix after they were contracted to build another edition at another Six Flags park, Great Escape, but I think either one of those 2 would be a successful addition. Our next park is Six Flags Darien Lake, which has one of the smaller coaster counts across all of the parks with 8 coasters total, and what they have isn't necessarily spectacular. The original Ride of Steel is their standout coaster, and it's at least somewhat decent, although its layout does perhaps hold it back just a bit. It has some large, drawn-out helixes and straight track, which make it a pretty uninspired layout. If only Intamin would have created a masterful layout like they did the following year at Six Flags New England, that would have given this park an amazing standout coaster. This park also has one of Six Flags' only Gerstlauer Eurofighters with Tantrum. It is a solid coaster and is exactly what you would expect from a small-scale Gerstlauer layout. In 1982, Darien Lake added a simple arrow corkscrew. Vekoma added 2 more clones to this park in the 90s with an SLC and a boomerang. They only have 2 family or kiddie coasters and not a single spinning coaster, so I think they should add some kind of family spinning coaster. My personal favorite spinning coaster, besides the Mach Extreme Spinner of course, is from Gerstlauer. These can get spinning fast and have a great pop of airtime towards the end of the layout. It could be a fun ride for all ages and isn't expensive. For that reason, I think this model would be a perfect addition to this park. Six Flags has announced some investment in the park as they are doing some retracking and putting some new trains on their SLC, so that will hopefully be an upgrade for them. SLCs can be enjoyable if they are smooth, so hopefully Darien Lake can claim they now have one of the best of that model in 2025. Now we move on to the much maligned Six Flags America. Even though this park is located right next to 2 major metropolitan areas, it is a pretty lackluster park, especially when compared to other parks in the region. Almost 10 million people live within an hour of the park and 20 million within 3 hours. That is why I have never understood why Six Flags neglects this park. Their only major coaster is Ride of Steel, the cloned Intamin Mega Coaster from Darien Lake. Unlike the original Ride of Steel, this ride's straight track is just plopped in the middle of a field, making it one of the more bizarre moments on any coaster. They also have a Vekoma Flying Dutchman called Batwing. Roar is a mid-GCI coaster and serves as one of 2 wooden coasters in the park, the other one being from Din Corporation, Wild One. The park's only launch coaster is Joker's Jinx, which is a clone of the Premier Rides launch coasters at other Six Flags parks. They also have a B&M floorless coaster, Firebird, which gives some more inversions, even though no one likes it. I think this park could use some more airtime and a better launch coaster, so I think the best fit for this park is another layout-focused Vekoma launch coaster. Vekoma could pack it with some fast-paced airtime hills and hang time-filled inversions, and balance it out with some quick transitions. It would give this park a standout coaster that could possibly draw in many people from the area. I think Six Flags should try to take better advantage of this park's advantageous location, and this could be a first step. The other international Six Flags park is Ronde, located in Montreal, Canada. This is another park that could just really use anything at this point. The last coaster this park added was in 2010 and was a relocated SLC from the closed Astro World. The park's wooden coaster, Monstre, is considered to be one of the roughest and overall worst experiences in Canada and even all of North America. This massive PTC creation has a very large structure that could make an excellent RMC. I doubt this would ever happen though. I think it would be much more likely for the park to add a single rail just like Frontier City. Either one of these options would give the park an ejector airtime machine to complement Goliath, which is the park's B&M mini hyper. But just like Frontier City, I just want Six Flags to give them something to round out the lineup. Next we have Great Escape, located in Queensbury, New York. This park is kind of like the Gilroy Gardens of the Six Flags chain. It doesn't necessarily focus on roller coasters. They are getting a small family wooden coaster for 2024 from Gravity Group. However, it is replacing one of their unique rides, an Intamin bobsled coaster. They only have 2 coasters that feature inversions, but these are basic cloned rides, and an Aero Corkscrew and a Vekoma Boomerang. As I've said with other small parks, just give them anything that will draw in more visitors. I feel like that is becoming a theme of this video. There are a lot of smaller parks in the Six Flags chain, and they need a lot of help to round out their lineups. That's why I keep saying they just need any roller coaster because anything will give this park a much needed addition. An RMC Raptor, a small Vekoma Looper, literally anything would help this park out. Next we move to Six Flags Great Adventure. This is one of the parks in the chain that Six Flags likes to try new models at, making it almost like a test park. They built a massive Intamin Stratocoaster which gives the park an extremely powerful launch. El Toro was the first Intamin prefabricated wooden coaster in the US, and this also serves as an amazing standout, plus it delivers some of the strongest airtime in the world. Nitro was one of the first B&M hypers. This 230-foot hyper is probably the most polarizing of its model, but no matter what side you're on, everyone can agree that it has lots of floater airtime. Jersey Devil was the first large model RMC Raptor in the chain, and their new for 2024 coaster, Flash Vertical Velocity, is the first Vekoma Super Boomerang in the United States, and the first major new age Vekoma in the chain. The world's first B&M floorless coaster was also installed at Great Adventure. This, along with a Superman Ultimate Flight clone, a Batman the Ride clone, and their stand-up coaster Green Lantern, give the park a large amount of inversions. This park basically has it all, and it was pretty hard to come up with a coaster for this park. Obviously, they could do something crazy like a Mach Hyper to give this park something unique and another massive standout coaster, but that is probably unrealistic. A B&M Winger dive coaster would also sort of work, but Dorney Park just added a dive coaster, so that option is ruled out. A wing coaster is definitely possible, however I think the park is already saturated with B&M loopers. In my opinion, the best option is another Vekoma. I know I've said that for a lot of the parks, but their new gen models are really good and offer something that is unique from what parks already have. However, for Great Adventure, I'm going just a little bit different, and I think a tilt coaster would be perfect. There isn't anything like that in their region of the country, so it would have great marketability. In addition, it would complement the other coasters at this park wonderfully. Perhaps it depends on what they think of their new Super Boomerang, which opens later this year. The last park in the chain is Six Flags New England. Of all the parks in this video, New England has one of the strongest top 2 coasters and some of the worst bottom coasters. The coaster that put this park on the map was Superman the Ride. This Intamin Mega Coaster won the Golden Ticket Award for World's Best Coaster 5 times. And giving the park another amazing airtime powerhouse is Wicked Cyclone. This is one of the smaller RMCs, but nonetheless has great airtime and inversions. However, beyond these 2 coasters, the park lacks depth. In 2002, they added a B&M floorless coaster, which gave the park an inversion machine. Riddler's Revenge is a Vekoma SLC that gives the park something below the track, however, it is an SLC. Joker and Pandemonium offer spinning cars, but this park does not have a launch coaster at all. I think a mock launch in the style of Copperhead Strike would be perfect. It could give some strong airtime as well as hang time filled inversions. I realize these are expensive, but I feel like Six Flags could find the money for one of these somewhere across all of their parks. I realize this is perhaps the most hopeful of our predictions, but I think that could be perhaps within reach. If you don't think that's realistic, just put a Vekoma launch coaster in there and you get the same general idea. And that will conclude this video about each Six Flags park and what additions they should add next. Let us know what you think of our additions to each park in the comments, and as always, thank you for watching.